Okay, this is going to be sort of a part two, and I really wanted to do this as a separate video, but so the Champions Island came and went a few months ago, almost like a month or two ago, but yeah, sorry I was kind of late to the party on this one, and I never really got up to talking about much weekly by weekly, but I want to make this. Fortunately, I was going to do this a while, at least somewhat a week or two ago, but yeah, well, better late than never. But the Champions Island, basically, let's parody Survivor or any reality TV show. The winner for the paid members of this channel, yeah, I never really. I'm coming this one outside perspective to compete against. All one of these combatants is going to get a guaranteed episode next year. Yeah, it was Ruskies after Wile E. Coyote versus Tomcat, and although we technically did had a mini voting period on which episode would you like to see rematch, we all know who won, to be honest, but yeah, another successor to the Tournament of Champions and more community-based focus compared to any others that isn't simply just vote which matchup you wanted. But this time we're going to vote for what combatant is going to get in it. But on the combatants who will be on this is for at least for at least basically 10 weeks each. So no, yeah, there was a period where okay, hey, get some of these characters onto the Champions Island. Get some of these yeah, was to basically pick a hand-picked selection of contestants to go to the island and win for an episode. Yeah, to be honest, I remember the whole voting period, to be honest, of how things went. To be honest, there were a lot of contestants and everything else. I remember there were a lot of good picks, to be honest, at the time. In the end, they chose 32. But there can only be at least only the top 16 can make it to the fun, can make it to the island itself to compete. So I better go mention the eliminated draft first, since they're pretty much all, since they're the bottom 16, and I'm gonna go in basically in my thoughts on maybe top to bottom, to be honest. Edwin, yeah, to be honest, even though I did enjoy the Aang versus Eric episode more for its animation and music, but yeah, you can definitely tell why it carried the certain two words I am not gonna say for I have touchy subjects towards those two, but anyways. Yeah, no, let's just say not best characterization, but worst characterization I've ever seen. Yeah, honestly, I definitely would like to see Eric in his own a new episode at some point. Romeo's Tempera, I would definitely see what maybe. Yeah, to be honest, I'm just gonna pull something real quick. That just pretty much sums up my thoughts on the whole thing. Honestly, it was a me. Yeah, to be honest, I was kind of feeling. Honestly, it was a maybe. Piccolo, yeah, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Why I want Piccolo? It's mainly just for Mashing Manhunter. Yeah, confession time. I really just wanted Piccolo to fight Mashing Manhunter already. Green aliens fighting each other would be fun. If it's not, then if it's one-sided, so, Mr. Fantastic will be interesting, although it's most likely to be Mr. Terrific. Economy, yeah, to be honest, I can definitely see a certain matchup. Yeah, to be honest, I think if he ever wins, it's going to be Kumi. Ref, I think Raphael. I honestly was expecting Michelangelo to make it onto the island more than Raphael, considering it would be nice to redeem himself and tell the Death Bell community, and also to kind of also give an apology to the guy after how he was presented onto the show. I'm not gonna say what he, but yeah, Sukuna was also somewhat more likely to go onto the island for some reason. But hey, I'll be fine with Raphael, to be honest. Sukuna is a maybe, to be honest. Vilgax is also someone I'm also interested in. Sukuna felt most likely. Vilgax was a maybe. Underpants was a kind of maybe for me. It would be nice to get it was a maybe another. Ken Kashi. Honestly, I was thinking about either Eric or Okarin. Funny considering Ocarina has the same voice actor as Ken, but hey. Junhara, honestly, I always feel like it's a maybe. Phoenix Wright is also a maybe. Phoenix Wright is more likely for me. I don't know how they're gonna make him fight in a Death Bell episode. It's gonna be probably something a little more experimental. Melia, yeah, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Despite, yeah, I'm also gonna confess I've been recently been playing E33 recently, Expedition in 33 recently, which is so far a great game. I will need to play it more at some point, but yeah. Anyways, we also got to Invincible. Bakugo. Yeah, to be honest, Invincible would have been interesting, although most likely it's going to be Gohan if they ever invite him onto the show. I don't think there's any good alternatives for it. Either it's going to be Gohan or Goku. And there's also Bakugo, which I would definitely like to see Bakugo come onto the show at some point, as well as also Osai. As far as a maybe, but kind of least likely, maybe. Yeah. Malness was at the time was a bit different. Okay, I should get back to Malness real quick, I should say. At the time, I was not really feeling like wanting to invite her because she was too early for my taste. Ace at the time, mainly I had that 5 year limit at the time, but I'll get to the reason why it got removed later. And also the reasons why when I get to the draft draft. Overall, pretty good rosters. It's nice to me how Bakugo, Invincible, Melio, Ellie, Sukada, Piccolo, and maybe Raph and also Mr. Fantastic. I thought it's the top 16. And we can finally get to the top 16. And yeah, the top six. So after basically the voting period, we actually get to the top 16. So first of all, on Team Wiz's rep, we have. Uh, and by the way, this was kind of decided by a coin toss right here. But anyways, so for the rep representations for Team Wiz and Team Boomstick, we have for Team Wiz, we have. Anyways, let's give you my thoughts on basically my thoughts on Team Wiz and Team Boomstick's roster. So first of all, let's go talk about Team Wiz. We have Meta Knight, which honestly I was kind of expecting, and it'll be interesting to get him onto the show at some point. Yeah, it's kind of missing aside from Ben and Wallaby. Flowery was a bit of a surprise, but mid onto here, excuse me. Samus Aran was something I want to wait until season. I think I was waiting for Prime 4. I was kind of feeling like a maybe, but I was thinking a little later on. I would definitely like to see her get a different opponent at some point. John Constantine has always been a maybe, but a little surprising he made it here. Steve, of course, it's Minecraft. I don't think I really need to say, despite this, other than Terraria, I put him a maybe. I mean, he's a bolster dude, and I love Minecraft as much as the next guy, even though I haven't been playing that game for years now. Everything else. Mhm. Okay, I'll order. I'll mention the last. I want to mention this one for last. Sakuyo Izuna is honestly any opponent other aside from Dio, and yes, I know she had Death itself from a Castlevania and also another Maiden matchup, but honestly, I was kind of just going with that. Sorry, I was the one just heard this news right. Yeah, to be honest. Boston was a maybe, but I didn't really have much interesting opponents for her currently for me. Yeah, honestly, it's a maybe, but a little surprising about it. And last but not least, we get to the person who actually won the whole. I mean, supposed to mention it. I mean, and then last but not least, we have Comrade Geets. Ah, yes, I remember when Geets was announced. I honestly was also giving a similar reason why I didn't really want him on the show yet. So, me mispronouncing his name is Keats. That's a different writer. Anyways, yeah, at the time I was feeling it a bit too recent at the time, to be honest, since his show just came out like 2 or 3 years ago. It's 3 years ago. 3 years now, and I don't want to send him to die early. Yeah. Although I will be convinced otherwise. Originally, I was kind of against him showing up since he was a bit more recent character. Then again, Clive came around the same year. Also, a bit related. And then you also remember that Dante versus, and then I remember Dante versus Kai came around during the whole Champions Island thing. So yeah, I guess they really feel like it. But that's just me. And also, I was convinced otherwise, considering his matchup list, including, okay, right, I'm supposed to not mention the matchup list yet, to be honest, and I will mention that once we get to the end of the analysis. Anyways, interesting lineup. Now, next up we have Team Boomstick, which had Hatsume Miku. Yeah, to be honest, I can most likely. Originally I was gonna make. Yeah, originally I was expecting Hatsume Miku, and I'm going also a little outward this time. Sorry, I'm going by the Mirazen wiki, going by Mirazen. Okay. Yeah, to be honest, they had literally Miku and Springtrap, who are, in my opinion, most likely going to win. And they were most likely going to make it to the top three, to be honest, considering those two's popularity and star power. And why not? Everyone likes Miku. And Springtrap always has been the talk of the town, really wanted to be invited to Death Battle. Henry! Nice to see my old childhood here. Henry has also a lot of different opponents, ranging from, well, the Second Coming as well as maybe the Warden from Super Jail. So this is also a nice little surprise to see him here. Spider-Man was obviously long overdue to get into another episode, despite also Miles is also there, coming from the same year as Miles. It's a little surprising to see him here, and actually I'll be accepting him as kind of, aside from Herobrine, the only accept, aside from maybe Herobrine and as well. Slender and Herobrine are the only acceptable Greek bosses I can go for, but still. But those are just me. Pac-Man, why not? And Shanda is also maybe. But anyways, let's just get on with the first week of what happened. So yeah, week zero was basically the drafting roster with the Golden Hearts, and there was also Broken Hearts, but that got removed after a couple of hours. Excuse me. And yeah, this relates to the top six, right up for the top 16. So we get to week one, which is basically hosted in basically knockoff comic. It's basically answering the first 200 episodes of the which was basically give you the trivia. It was week one was basically trivia, basically answering a 200 200 episodes worth of, which was basically the first 200 episodes of the show, not including any of the bonus episodes, by the way. I like the obvious shirt Steam sale, that one with collaboration episode. Oh, the Sevens, and Excalibur versus Raiden. And since those are bonus episodes, so yeah. And it goes into, wow, the 200 history, the first 200 episodes of the show's history. It really does want you to learn about the history of Death Battle, as well as attention to details, to be honest, on these, of all the episodes you have watched. It's like, basically, Isabel, ranging from something in the analysis too, something always in the backgrounds and whatnot. Yeah, you can definitely tell the history of the shows by the way. 200 years worth, by the way. Anyways, by 1%, Team Boomstick won. Gates community, of course. And surprisingly, during the first week, and kind of sets the tone of how I felt about the whole thing, Steve and John Constantine got eliminated first. Like, wow, that feels surprising to me. I think Steve would make it to at least somewhere on top 10 or top 5, to be honest. Same goes with John Constantine due to, obviously, popularity with their game. Popularity reasons with Steve. John Constantine always feels like to me they really want those guys to be on the show at some point. And it was season 2 was a puzzle hunt, which is surprisingly referencing a little bit more on Death Battle, to be honest. It's also more based on fun facts and everything else. A little more inside jokes and fun facts, to be honest, a bit from the show compared to week 1, which was we're just talking about more of the show in general and also the first 200 episodes of the show. So this puzzle hunt, this puzzle hunt has an interesting, which actually I should probably mention. First one was a Sendoku puzzle, and which leads to the question, yay, which decipher leads to who defeated Psycho Mantis. Originally, this canonically you would have said Solid Snake, but instead it's actually referring to an old Screw Attack form of an inside joke where Mewtwo would have basically killed Mantis. So, yeah, interesting question to be a interesting answering question. Then you also get to a Jigsaw puzzle, which was who stole the what was the name of the thief, the hard drive thief? No, interesting fact. If you ever watched back in the day, if you ever watched Yang versus Tifa, they were hiding the reveal of obviously Mega Man versus Astrobot, which was actually, well, which was in which was supposed to be for another show at the time called The Industry, which was the season finale. Just forget series finale. It was probably now Arthur's name is John Francis McCall, who used to work at Screw Attack back in the day. Hey, hey. Then you also get to a puzzle. Then you also get to a cryptogram psychic answer, which man requires a lot of key wording and everything else. There was a lot of ciphers you had to do, which leads to the question: where did the current era begin? Era begins, which obviously refers to the independent era. Obviously, it was Omni-Man versus Bardock, considering it was the first episode that was the earliest premiere. It was the first episode in the independent era, and also it was beginning early if you had the Super Tanga and Topa tier. Then you go to get to puzzle 4, which was a pentagram episode puzzle. Excuse me. which leads to an imagegram link, which leads to the, well, that's the first part, by the way. The second part requires you to basically just answer this question. Tails IQ plus Allison's velocity, Ben's aliens, L enzyme, CMOS speed. Obviously, it was referring to we're referring to 4 different episodes. And I'm not reading the equation, by the way, so I'm just gonna just leave it like that. And final puzzle was actually something, basically you were given a copy of The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Coleman, which, while the question can be found within the story itself, but instead the front page number on the bottom right of each game, which next to is you lost the game. Now, if you don't read the story, I don't think I really. It was about basically a big game hunter finding himself stranded in an isolated Caribbean island, and where he was hunted himself by another big game hunter until the two fought 1v1, ending in the loser's defeat. This was obviously referenced, interestingly enough, of this was referencing Boba Fett versus Predator. Big game hunt, two big game hunters fighting in an isolated island, in an isolated area until this ends with it. The loser was obviously the Predator. That was kind of it. Yeah, man, it was interesting to learn about it. Anyways, although there was a bit of a leak early, but anyways. Now week 2 would eliminate Fuzan and Samus were most likely going to get eliminated. Manon and Tsuruya were kind of there. Although Tsuruya was having an alignment with Geats, and Geats already had immunity, so same with Flower, so yeah. Next up, we got basically, it was kind of kept a secret throughout the whole thing until it was revealed to be Infinity Craft. They were meaning to also. Infinity Craft. Yeah, you basically need to create some things based on scrambled words. Yeah, it was interesting take, so I don't know why they didn't use MJ instead. They use anything related to Spider-Man stuff. But okay. Also, why Sentai? Yes, I know it's a sister series to Kamen Rider, but I would at least use something related to Kamen Rider. But anyways, so yeah, it was basically, man, race to the top to see who. Yeah, it was basically using Infinity Craft, Incognito, and building a team scratch based on the words and everything. Finish the list, wins. Anyways, elimination time. Yeah. Shantae and Spider-Man most likely lost, despite how Spider-Man felt like he could make it to be somewhere onto top 10 before he lost. Same goes with Shantae. Shantae would have been most likely would have been someone eliminated, getting eliminated first. But yeah, to be honest, as much as I love Shantae, I don't feel like she was going to make it to that far of the island. But surprisingly, she survived at least 2 weeks. Impressive. Week 4 was Mugen! Yeah, Mugen this week. Where pretty much everyone, except for Fazan, because our sprite age weren't ready for Mugen, so they replaced with Phoenix Wright, who was 17 at the place at the time. Though I was kind of expect Bakugo, or at least Piccolo, or Invincible, but that's just me. By the way, they were kind of playing basic A3v3 a match set between MVC and King versus Capcom at tag team style, as well as King of Fighters turn-based battles. Yeah, there was a lot of information about this matchup, as well as the roster things happen with that. Then you can go on the old list. By the way, the entire tournament is I don't know if anyone recreated it. I'm surprised no one has recreated the Mugen version of this fight, to be honest. Yes, and there was a lot of things that were referenced in this episode. It's, yeah, there was a lot of city references. The stage selection was a lot of references to Death Battle's past 200 episodes, which was nice. Really enough, there was also the train station for Cars versus Lucy that was left out. Yeah, there was also, interestingly enough, these there was also two death race tracks also there, as well as several other tracks. And I would like to see a public version of this. I would definitely love to see a public version of this matchup happen. I would like to see a public build for this game, considering why not. It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out and everything. It's nice little references and pop culture. Anyways, Team Wiz wins the whole thing, and Springtrap and Pac-Man surprisingly got listed halfway through the whole thing. Wow, yeah, during the first, it's just yeah, surprisingly, he left early. Honestly, it just feels surprising how, yeah, despite how people mostly hyped and what I really want to request Springtrap to get onto the show, he just left way earlier than usual. Yeah, probably gonna say it later, but yeah, I'm not gonna say my thoughts on how the outing went so far, but I will probably just say, hey, yeah, it just feels surprising to me. I thought Springtrap would just make it at least up to the top three, but he got eliminated this early. Same goes for Pac-Man. I thought Pac-Man would at least some make it to somewhere on top five before he got eliminated, but yeah, surprising to see that early. By the way, I would definitely like to see a public test build version of the game, basically the Champions Island, or at least somewhat of a Death Battle Mugen, but that's a different story for me, and I can agree at times. Anyways, week five was basically a boss rush, or I like to call it just a speed run, to be honest, which is basically chess, Tetris, Pokemon Showdown, and Connect 4. Do it in the fastest time as possible. Boomstick won again, and Flower and I got eliminated surprisingly. Yeah, Flower always feels like a lot earlier than me, and Meta Knight's a little surprising to me. Honestly, I was just stop being surprised at that point. Week six was the typical team merger with Henry and Sakuya, yeah, being steady there. So yeah, there was also a time that Gates was almost eliminated. Yeah, my boy was almost gonna get eliminated soon, and yeah, to be honest, oh boy, at the time week six happened, I was like, well, there's the typical merger, Henry and Sakuya are immune, and then suddenly here's the my thoughts on elimination. Miko just left early? Wait, Miko just left? During week six? 2 weeks before the final? This feels like a bloody miracle how this went. Miko and Slenderman will have most. Yeah, Slenderman feels most likely he's going to make it to somewhere around the top five before getting eliminated. Just feels miracle. Yeah, I'm just going to say bloody miracle how things went, to be honest. Like, week four. Like Springtrap and Miku are most likely going to win this one. Feel like the most likely win this one. And then you get to week four and week six, they got eliminated. Yeah, no, week six was a bit toxic, but I'd rather not say that much on that one. And Slenderman, actually, I was thinking Slenderman would have left at least somewhere in week six or seven, to be honest. But yeah, it just feels like a miracle how all the popular characters flip before week seven. Anyways, back to my thoughts on it. Anyways, week seven was basically the show or just basically fan art. And by the way, shout outs to everyone who worked on this. I would say your artwork is peak. Actually, I just say it has got to be peak artwork to be honest for anyone working on this on the Champions Island to be honest. Yes. No, by the way, the contest is really into two categories: music and sorry, art, and also trailers. Although aside from ballot rules, except for making original animation, I get there was time. I know you really want to get this done within the week, but that's the rule I kind of disagree, to be honest. I kind of prefer. I would definitely like to see some flexing. By the way, to whoever. Sorry, that was that's the audio for the episode. Whoever named it. By the way, trailer. Although I was expecting one of the top three to be Nero, and everyone should expect other than. Sorry. I'm not supposed to mention her name yet. Sorry. But anyway, still Picard though. Although I'm still questioning why Gates is. Hmm. So for each category, the results were Sequoia won art, and Geats won trailers. And then it was just kind of the whoever get it was either Ash or Henry get eliminated. Ash got eliminated. This feels like a mirror. Ash is kind of least popular to me. I mean, kind of always has been. I always feel like it would have made it somewhere on top five. And then we get to week eight, which was anticlimactic. Yeah, I'm just gonna be brutally honest with you. It was mostly anticlimactic. It was just, all right, time for a simple voting on who gets to win. Like, no, something cool, badass moment. It's just photo wins. That just feels kind of anticlimactic to me. I always feel like the voting thing was kind of anticlimactic. Like, really? Really? That's what we're going for? Just pick out one of the traitors should win this whole thing. Anyways, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Yeah, and by the way, I should mention week seven last week was kind of a last minute voting. Need to get Ashwell as ever of the show. Anyways, so it was basically up to Geets, Comrade Geets, Sequoia, and Henry. And Geets won. Yeah, to be honest, it was so anticlimactic. I'm just gonna say it's Geets. Yeah, honestly, I was kind of yeah, I probably tell you the truth. Truth is, I really wanted Geets to win this whole thing. Yeah. Despite how I felt about. Honestly, at first I was kind of one disagree of Geats wanting to win the whole thing because, well, he's one of the more recent characters of Death Battle, just came out like 2 or 3 years ago, mind you. But I was convinced otherwise, considering his matchup pool. One of them interests me, actually, two of them interest me more, but yeah, it's surprising how things went on it. It felt like a miracle, to be honest, how that went. Yeah, Gates won surprisingly, and yeah, I kind of wish the announcement was a bit more grand, to be honest, than just simply, "Oh hey, Gates won," than a simple posting, "Oh hey, Gates won." Then again, they probably did the same thing with Master Chief versus Doomslayer rematch, but no, maybe it's just me expecting a little bit more. Excuse me. We'll announce this during the next live stream to make it something like, excuse me. Woohoo! Here's the announcement of our winner. Geeks have won our Death Bell episode, and now it's just probably, and they're happy to excite, and you get the picture. It's happy, excited, cheering, fan music, fanfare. It just kind of just feels like I just wish they did it instead of just community post blog and say, "Oh hey, Geeks won." So yeah, you expect this episode coming out in the near future. I know they're more focusing on the few episodes, but still. Okay, finally, I can mention the matchup poll. Yeah, originally, surprisingly, they already did a mock-up version of the whole. all matchup poll, which I think is still only 1 second look for where. I don't remember there's an original matchup poll that Vita was supposed to have. For that. Let's see. Sorry, what's that? What the matchup poll there? I remember all of that. Yeah, never mind. But you know what? I think I remember sort of the Champions Island poll that was kind of happened after. I think it was during the mock-up, to be honest. General Champions Island. I have to put that on a save in case I need the reference material, to be honest. But you know what? But anyways, yeah. Anyways, you know what? Screw it. I'll just talk about. Yeah, okay, yeah. There were some interesting picks, but yeah. I'll just tell you honestly. Mhm. Uh, Originally, yeah, you know what, screw it. Just talk about my thoughts on who Gates got. No, originally, it's a funny thing. Originally, one of the opponents they were going to go for is Joey from Fortnite. I get the connections and everything, but Joey, you have Rick Tolvin from Call of Duty Zombies. You would be a better opponent than that guy, than Geats. Yeah, it was later replaced with Bayonetta. Oh yeah, right, I should probably mention. Yeah, we got to Sephiroth, Nero Claudius, Liu Kang, and Bayonetta. Honestly, my thoughts on the choices is no, Sephiroth and Bayonetta, obviously returning combatants, considering Dante's already came back in the show and Clive is also in the Final Fantasy. Considering, well, one franchise has already decided to show up that isn't from 7, and one franchise that's shown up that is, and one of her opponents is here, so why not? Honestly, I would say least likely those two. I mean, sure, they have good connections, but no. I feel like and yeah, Nero, Claudius, and Liu Kang are the reasons why I wanted Nero to win. There are reasons why I wanted those two. Now, let me give you the reason why I wanted Nier. I was 50-50 with this one for Keats' performance. Nero was one of those two I really wanted. Liu Kang is Nero was because I really wanted Fate on the show already. It's been a long overdue franchise for quite a while. Liu Kang as well. Liu Kang has been also been a long overdue franchise for a while now. Liu Kang was because it's long overdue Mortal Kombat a character to show up on this show. And surprisingly, he isn't here yet. Oh well, at least you have Morty Jin, Virgo, and basically the Elroy Thor guy, Elroy Thor to basically fight that guy. But for now, really, there's not really any announcements for that. So I'm for now just gonna expect Luke. Well, anyways, Nero was obvious. And by the way, I was expecting somewhere around the 50-50 roster, or something like somewhere on the 40% and 40%. And but nope, Nero got a landslide of 57.35%. Meanwhile, which pretty much checks on most. Meanwhile, Luke ain't got 30%, 30.28%. And Bayonetta and Sephiroth only got like 6%, somewhere around like 6%. Yeah, Nero just landslide victory. Nero landslide the victory. And yeah, our next matchup for 2026 is going to be, well, Nero is going to be fighting Liu Kang. Surprisingly. Honestly, it's long overdue for those two franchises to show up and on this show. Like, yeah. It's long overdue. Excuse me. Yes. Yeah, I could definitely just imagine the Death Battle researchers right now going, I could definitely imagine the screaming right now with the whole researching, having to research both shows. But anyways, I'm really finally feeling like I can get Fate on the show. It's a long overdue franchise and it's a long overdue one. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. So yeah, bye. And I can't wait for 2026.